Probably live with your family, you hang out with your buddies, and on Saturday night you blow it all off 2001, right?
That's right.
He's very good, huh? He's the best. Hey, man, he's great. He's the king out there.
Hello and welcome to episode 180 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking from indie films to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to F it up. In our very, very humble opinion. I am Giles Alderson. I'm a writer, director, and a producer.
I'm Robbie McCain, director, producer.
And today, I'm absolutely delighted to tell you our guest is the fantastic John Badham. Now, not only has John directed Saturday Night Fever, War Games, Short Circuit, Dracular, no less, Stakeout, Bird on a Wire, but also TV including Heroes, 12 Monkeys, Arrow, Constantine, and very, very recently Siren and Supernatural. He is an absolute legend. Not only that, but he's written 3 amazing books, including on directing, which we're talking about quite a bit on this episode, but also his fantastic book, I'll Be In My Trailer. They're both amazing. Highly, highly recommend.
Quite the resume.
And we are delighted to get him on, and he talks so in depth all about his process as a filmmaker. Honestly, you're in for an absolute treat, aren't they, Robbie?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, he's just a really nice, considerate guy as well. On top of all of that, that's what you're getting. And he's so down to earth.
He was, yeah. I felt like I knew him at the end of our chat. I felt like he was just one of those fun, wonderful people. Maybe a teacher, maybe an uncle. It was just so cool.
Absolutely.
And what a guy.
Well, he does actually teach professionally as well, and you can tell that in his voice. He's very good at communicating his process and his ideas.
We talk about some amazing things, but what for me struck me from this episode, and you guys will learn from this, is he gave some amazing advice for directors and producers on working with actors and what to say, the right kind of words, and honestly, it's vital and so important. He talks about that, how to give notes on set, and also to always be learning as a director.
He talks about his first feature start, which was originally a Steven Spielberg project, working with Billy D. Williams and James Earl Jones in a period piece where they were fighting for budget. And then he talks about working on Saturday Night Fever and having to scout for discos at 2 a.m. in order to find the right location.
Any excuse to go to a disco, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, no, I'm making a film. I have to go to discos at 2 a.m. I have to. In the 70s. I love it.
Apparently there's a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah, I can imagine. You're going out to discos, you're not going to be sleeping, are you? You're going to be dancing.
Cue the Bee Gees music.
He also talks in depth about how every actor is different, and they will be till the day you die. He talks about Dracular quite a lot as well, and working with Laurence Olivier, and then also John Travolta on Saturday Night Fever. And he talks about action scenes as well, and how you direct those. What a guy.
And if you subscribe to the Patreon, we've got a special bonus episode for you this week, specifically on how he directs his TV projects and the difference between that and his feature film projects. So make sure you head over to www.patreon.com/The Filmmakers Podcast to get access to that.
Also up there, if you aren't a Patreon subscriber yet, thank you so much for those who are, but is the full Mark Strong episode, uncut. Mark Strong going in depth about working with Danny Boyle. Yeah, absolutely. Me messing up mainly. Working with Danny Boyle, working with Ridley Scott and some amazing other directors as well. It's so cool. Thank you for those who listened last week to our episode with Jed Shepherd. Now, he is the producer and screenwriter of the lockdown hit, all made on Zoom, called Host. If you haven't yet, do go listen. It's amazing how to make a micro-budget indie film in lockdown. But I've got some shout-outs for people this week. Thank you so much for your support. Collaborators, Ian DeLeon, Lowlight Dave, Diane Knight, Ryan Green, Kiri Nallis, and Chris Hughes. He was talking about a Patreon page because it's just a couple of quid, by the way, to come and support us. Phil Hawkins, who's a regular co-host on this program, thank you for your support this week. Elia Colazar Green, thank you so much for your email. Huge. I love that when we get emails with full support. Dan Karza, and of course, Repeat Movie, which is a movie I'm producing. Richard Miller is directing. I'm producing that with Lucinda Rhodes Takara, and we are shooting in about 3 weeks' time. How amazing is that?
Exciting.
We're shooting 3 weeks' time on Repeat Movie. Huge news. Casting announcements are happening this week. Very, very exciting. Talking of exciting news, we have amazing guests coming up, don't we, Robbie?
Well, next week, we've got the amazing Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck, directors of Half Nelson and Captain Marvel.
Amazing.
Yeah, that one's going to be a good one. Of course, this one as well.
Yes.
We've got a whole roll, it was a whole stream of amazing episodes coming out.
Absolutely.
After that, we're going to have Sarah Gavron, the amazing director of Suffragette, and her new film, Rocks.
Yeah, she was amazing to talk to about that. And also coming up for you is Aaron Scotty, the producer of the Peanut Butter Falcon, who was on our Make Your Film event recently, but now he's coming to do the podcast. And joining him will be John Livesey, and they're going to be talking about how you can pitch your project to anyone. Amazing. That is all coming up for you. Super exciting. So, joining us on this episode, who isn't here for the intro, is director Matthew Butler-Hart. He's not here because he's on his way to Greece because he's working, but he is co-hosting this episode. Now, Matthew is the director of Two Down, The Isle, and the brand new film that they have made in lockdown called Infinitum. Now, I wanted to talk to Matthew about that in this intro, but we will save it for him and Tori Butler-Hart for another episode. That's what we'll do. We'll talk fully about Infinitum with them, how to do that. Also, their book, Brimming with Fizz, Ginger and First Determination, is now on pre-order. It's available in 2021, but how cool is that? They've written a book, ladies and gentlemen. Some really cool people might be in that.
Maybe someone we might know.
I don't know, they might have cut me out.
Spoiler alert, it's Charles.
There's much better people than me in their book, though, to be fair. So don't forget, John Badham's book is out now. It's called On Directing. There's more of this stuff he's talking about. It is so cool. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, join our Patreon page and you can hear more of John talking about TV as well.
So, put on your white suit, cue the disco lights, and let's get to the director of Saturday Night Fever, among many other amazing films, John Badham.
Enjoy, everyone. This is an absolute delight to have with us on this week's Filmmakers Podcast, John Badham. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's just a treat to be talking to all of you.
It's a treat for us too. You're joined by Matthew Butler-Hart, who's also a director, and Robbie McCain, who's a producer, director, writer.
Okay.
Well, it must be a good time for you, John, then, to release a book, though I imagine you wrote this. Saying that, you've even written in there about 1917 and films that have just come out. So were you writing it up to the wire until we literally got this brilliant copy of On Directing, your brand new book here? Were you writing up to the wire?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, I did something I shouldn't have done, which is I kept teaching and trying to write at the same time. And I'm never doing that again. Just too many things at once. But because if there's any bright spot to the pandemic, it's because I've had to stay home and we've had to, been able to do work on the publicity and just starting to get the book ready to go out.
And is this the second edition? Is this right?
Yes.
As well? Yes.
Yes, it is.
And this is the new parts of this, the television. Those are the new bits, aren't they? Yeah.
Well, the main new bit is talking to directors who have only experience in doing independent films or feature films, but have not ventured into the world of the streaming world, which includes, episodic television, but all of the streaming channels and so on. That is a whole different kind of political setup than the feature world, and it's a culture shock for people going into that. My students, when I describe to them what they can expect in this world, are absolutely horrified because they're so used to the 100-year model of the director as auteur, or maybe not 100 years, maybe half of that. But anyway, the director is suddenly finding themselves much further down the food chain than they may be used to, or they think that the books tell them that they can be like John Ford and Otto Preminger, or even James Cameron and Quentin Tarantino. directors who can do whatever they please and have earned the right to it.
What's so lovely is it's about people rather, so many of the other books are so sort of technical and practical, which this is as well, but that's what our industry is. And that's what these books have, just does so beautifully, I think, remind you, okay, this is the core of it, your relationships with actors, especially. You went and trained at, was it a Yale Drama School?
Yes.
Was that as a director or as an actor, or was there?
It was as a director,
Yes.
And there were no film programs at Yale, certainly not at the drama school. I mean, the closest thing we had would be film history, and that was viewed as one of those silly courses where you took when you wanted the easiest thing in the world to take.
A bit like performing arts now. Yes.
Yes.
That's what I
they
did.
were, known as gut courses.
But is that where you're known as an actor's director, and it's so evident in the films, which is brilliant. Even like Blue Thunder, the action sort of films, it's still so sort of character led, which is brilliant. Was it the Yale drama side of it that sort of infused that sort of enthusiasm for actors, working with actors properly?
Oh, I absolutely think so. And I had brief ambitions to do some acting myself, and was doing it in the drama school and as an undergraduate at Yale. But I could tell that friends of mine, like Sam Waterston, for example, they were getting all the lead roles, and I was getting the secondary roles, and the sensible part of me, of which is very small, said, I don't think you should be trying to make a living doing this, but this directing thing is kind of fun, and I'm enjoying doing that, and that's where I started to focus. So when I went to the drama school, I went as a director.
Which must have been great, because there can't have been many of you directors there. So I suppose you could really hone your craft. And like Matt says, was that where you learnt to really understand actors, or is that by a long period of working with them over the time that you have made films and TV?
Directors should do some acting themselves, even if they're terrible. Yeah. Take acting classes where they're forced to get up on stage. They can't sit in the back row and just kind of go, but
rhubarb, yeah.
they actually have to get up there and understand what it takes. I mean, at the drama school, we learned enormous respect for our actors and what it takes to go through, and we had to take acting classes ourselves. But the bond between the actor and the director is so powerful, and one of the first things I noticed when I started being around television and films is that many directors are just terrified of actors. They're very technically oriented. They understand how the camera works. They understand film stocks and sound and all kinds of technical things. But actors have these horrible, horrible things that have opinions. And
and a voice that's loud. Yeah, absolutely.
And a voice, you can't just set the f-stop on the actor and go.
Sadly, me and Matt know this because we were actors for a long time. So yeah, absolutely. It's
one of the reasons I stopped being an actor, was kept encountering directors who just were more fiddling around with all the camera far more than the actor. I was like, I don't enjoy this part of it. I want to tell stories, and this is just didn't enjoy it.
Do you find having that acting experience, John, gives you a bit more empathy when you're on set? Then, like, exactly what an actor could be going through in a difficult situation.
Absolutely, and that they're not robots, and they're not machines that you can just switch on, switch off. They have feelings, and they're creative people. Even the least of us has some creativity there, and it's just only sensible to listen and give some credence to what they're bringing to you, and allow them to try things out. Even on the fastest television schedule, if an actor comes to me with an idea that's perfectly horrible, I'll often just pretty much let them try it, because their own sense of what's good and what's bad often, eliminates it, but they got the chance to try it out. And that's so important for building trust and working with them over several days. Say, okay, all right. My answer to somebody who comes in with a god awful idea that in my younger self, my more cynical self would have said, oh God, that'll never work. Oh, that's terrible. Now I go, I never thought of it that way. Tell me more.
Clever. Yeah.
And I tell you, it works miracles.
That's really touching.
And even just if they get to try it out and you say, I don't think that works, the fact that you allowed them to try it makes them, so much happier. This idea they've been carrying around in their head for, a few hours or a couple of days of something, they're not resenting you for not allowing them. That's one thing in a theatrical rehearsal. Actors can try anything because you have plenty of time.
Mm-hmm.
But even when you don't have plenty of time, it's amazing what you can try out and abandon and work your way through.
And do you know what's wonderful in your other book? I suppose it would be your second book, I'll Be in My Trailer. Really goes into depth on what actors are going through and how directors should work with actors, as obviously On Directing book does as well. I think that's really interesting. I'd love to talk to you about your thoughts on the acting side and some of the tips that are in the book that you can give as a little tease to directors and producers and filmmakers out there of why they should get the book, but also because I think it's just great advice. We didn't know how much we could talk about some of the brilliant stuff that's in this book, so we thought we'd leave it to you to say which bits of advice would you like to say? Well,
aside from what we've just been talking about, which is really listening to your actors and giving them the respect instead of just riding over them. There are things that work with actors well, and there are things that work with actors terribly. For example, what we like to call result directing. Result directing is something that you may say to the actor, okay, that was pretty good. Let's go faster this time. Or, this could be a lot more excited. Or as I once heard the dean of the Yale Drama School, who had retired many decades ago, but actually I heard him say to the actor, okay, now the next time, let's do this one faster and funnier.
Nailed it. I've got it.
And if you can, make it better.
If you can.
Faster and more successful.
I mean, that just leaves an actor puzzled as to what in the hell you mean. I mean, faster. He speaks faster. That doesn't mean it's going to be any better. It probably means he's going to lose some of the nice moments that he had. What indeed you need to do better is learn how to use what we'd like to call active verbs. Use a better version of the verb they should be doing. For example, I'm trying to talk a girl into going to out for coffee with me or for a drink, and I'm trying to talk her into it. Well, now if I want to upgrade that, I'm not going to talk her into it. I'm going to persuade her. I'm going to seduce her. I'm going to beg her. I'm going to upgrade that verb. And that's something that the actor has to work with. Now, it's much better than, go faster, go give me more. Give me more just means you push. But whatever your choice is going to be, is a much more creative kind of image for the actor to work with.
Yeah, it's so beautifully simple as well. It's a lot of drama training. Actors, they have to action their scripts as well. So it's immediately talking their language, and they go, oh, hang on, that I can understand. Okay, right, I've got to do an action on this. Okay, great. It's a great way of looking at it.
And that's part of the tuning into the actor's language that the actor understands. There's a wonderful book called The Action Thesaurus. Yeah. And so the actor can be kind of going through and finding verbs. Well, of course, I use that too. I might as well, cop from their book and get things that they understand, and not be giving these lazy directions Like,
It's so true.
be more excited here.
As directors, we have to really work our craft and understand what the actors are going through. And I'm so glad you brought in the verb as a doing, as an action to help actors, because it's one of the best and it's fantastic. And like Matt says, actors understand it. So thank you. Yeah, it's a good one.
Which is also why I don't know. I was like, as soon as I read that, because I've got that on the bookshelf from my acting days, I was like, of course, that's what I should have been doing for the last 10 years, rather than rambling on like a maniac on set trying to direct people.
Totally. And that was something else you mentioned as well, John, that Matt was saying there. We can ramble on too much. Mm-hmm. We can give the actor too much information and just go off and, oh, it's this and that happened, and remember in 1984 that happened. No. What am I doing? What's the doing word here? And you
Yes.
explain that very well.
That's right. I mean, what can the actor do in this scene for right now? It doesn't matter that when as a child he wet the bed or the dad beat him. I mean, backstories are useless at that point. But in this scene, I need you to give them, and you give them a verb to work with. Then that's going to work. Of course, we talk too much. Directors are just horrible about talking too much. I'm trying to train my students in any direction you give an actor once you're in takes, not in rehearsal, but in takes. Any direction you give an actor has got to be in 10 seconds or less, because after 10 seconds, I think, is the limit at which point you can watch your actor's eyes glaze over.
Yep. Yeah.
And they're starting to think about checking their email, wondering what's for lunch, wonder what craft service has over to offer today. They're not listening to you.
No, and I think that's really interesting that we want to be heard sometimes as directors, and we feel like we should be saying something. And is this something you've learned over your time? Is sometimes you don't need to say anything at all, because when you're starting out, you feel like you should be saying something to the actors. Tell them anything, tell them something, and otherwise they won't think you know what you're doing. Have you learned over time that actually it's okay to say nothing, or just to go, that was great, moving on?
I think it's very important to talk to every actor after every take. That's a key thing that I learned from Sidney Lumet's book. And as we know, Sidney Lumet shot films faster than anybody ever did. He would shoot films in 30 days that any other director would take 50 days to shoot. So you think, how in the hell did he have time to talk to every actor after every take? And he's doing 30 days and I've got 8 days. But I said, well, it is Sidney Lumet, okay, well, let's try it. And I found, you know what? All you have to do is kind of walk past somebody on the set and touch them on the shoulder, if they're doing okay, or give them a little thumbs up and spend a few seconds with somebody who really can use a note. But all the people who don't need notes, they need encouragement too. They need to know that, no, that went pretty well, and it doesn't take any more than just like a touch or a nod. But otherwise, you as an actor, and if you've done acting, you know what I mean. You're standing there at the end of the take, and it's totally quiet. Nobody says anything except the bloody director is talking to the DP over in the background about some flare that came off the light that doesn't matter at all. And you're the actor thinking, they're talking about me. They're talking about how terrible I was. Oh my God, it's so awful they won't even say anything.
Yeah, and you're not at all, but that's what the actor thinks. So, as you say, the best thing to do straight away is to say, well done, that was great. I'm just going to have a chat with my DP and I'll come and talk to you.
There you go.
If you need to, right?
So that's what speeds things up.
Right.
Everyone's going, okay, we're fine. Okay, no problems. That's how you can do things much faster, yeah.
There's an old management tool which is called catch your employees doing something right. Don't catch them doing something wrong, but catch them doing something right. So, you can say to I love the way when you went to the door and you turned around and you gave them that look. That was really nice. So if you can be specific beyond, that was great, that was a really nice take, I like that. If you can give them specific commendations, then that's going to help tremendously. And it gives them something to hang on to.
when you made your first feature film, the Bingo Long Traveling All Stars and Motor Kings, that was the name of your first
Good job.
movie.
Good job.
Yeah.
The whole title, too.
Yeah, the whole title, everything. Do you just call it the Bingo?
One of the few conversations I ever had with a film critic, she begged me, please don't have the title that long. It's too long. She was right. She was absolutely right. But
Of course. It doesn't fit on a tweet,
Yes.
Obviously not back then. What I wanted to ask you is obviously what you learned there, because you kind of jumped straight in to making a feature, if you like. I mean, obviously you've done loads of bits and pieces before, but maybe you could fill us in on that, how you learned the process, what happened to you on that set, and then also moving on to Saturday Night Fever as well, and how that came about. And obviously it did very, very well.
My first directing was some hour television. That was, I was really lucky to be part of a very prestigious show called The Bold Ones. And I did, for 2 or 3 years, various episodic television shows of the time, and then this is the heyday of movies of the week. And I started doing exclusively those, and they're mini movies. They were 90 minutes or 2 hours long. And that started getting me offers of feature scripts. So I had probably 8 or 10 of these movies of the week under my belt before the first movie came along that I really liked. I turned down a lot because I had been taught by my friend Michael Ritchie, who was a wonderful director and kind of a mentor to me, that be really careful about what first movie you take, because, as he said, the beaches are littered with the bodies of first-time directors. It looks like Dunkirk there.
Right. Wow.
Very ominous.
Bingo Long came along. I think it was originally to be done by Spielberg, but he was in the middle of trying to get Jaws finished to go out, and that was taking all of his time. So he dropped out, and the producers came to me to be a first-time director. And this film I really loved, and I thought was really a wonderful, not only historical piece, but had great characters and great fun and enthusiasm and the kind of comedy that I understand and that I love. The work in the movies of the week said, okay, I can expand beyond episodic television, but I can also do this feature film in the short time that they want to give us to do it. They wanted to give us like 38 days, and everybody said, oh, that's too tough. And I thought, 38? I never had 38 in my life. I thought I was lucky when I had 24. Of course I can do it in 38. And my production manager kept saying, they're lying to you. It's 52 days. It's really going to be 52. I said, well, we promised we'd do it 38. He said, it's 52. He was right. It was 52. Because what I didn't understand at that point was that, yeah, you can do the dialogue scenes in the same kind of quick schedule that you're used to, but baseball takes a lot of time, and I imagine it would, whether it was soccer or cricket or basketball, to shoot it properly where you're interested in the characters, not just recording the game.
Yes.
Takes a lot of time, and so we were way over schedule, which was a lot of screaming and shouting. But we got the look of the movie, and at the end of the day, it didn't cost anybody that much money for our over schedule.
And you had amazing stars: Richard Pryor, who else? James Earl Jones, Billy D. Williams. I mean, wow! For your first movie, even though I suppose you'd feel like you've already been making movies, the TV movie of the week, did you feel like this was a step up? Did you feel like, okay, yes, now I'm playing? Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was exciting. And actors that I, really respected, like James Earl Jones and Billy D., who was, so romantic and so good looking, it was a wonderful combination. Then meeting Richard Pryor, who at that point was not yet Richard Pryor, but was just starting to grow in people's conscious. I already knew him as hysterically funny and insightful comedian with a biting kind of wit that was laced in with the humor of his. So that it was really exciting to be working with them, and there's all of them so professional.
Which must have been so much fun. Was that for Lou Wasserman as well at Universal? Was it all done under the Universal umbrella, or did they just pick it up afterwards?
It was a joint venture between Universal and Motown. Motown Pictures that Rob Cohen was the head of under Berry Gordy. Motown Pictures found the book and bought the book. They didn't take an option on it; they bought it.
Right.
And then Rob's rationalization at the time was, if we just take an option, it'll laze around here and never get made. But if I buy it, they'll be screwed with, we just spent $75,000 for a book. Oh no!
Yeah, we have to make it.
Instead of some cheesy $10,000 annual option that people could write off. So Universal said, we'll make it if we can make it for $4 million.
Wow. All right.
And they gave it a price because it was a period picture. It's in the 1939, which means automobiles, locations. We had to go into the heart of Georgia to find old baseball fields. So moving our whole company from LA to Georgia, that's expensive. And so that $4 million barely got us through it. Eventually Motown had to go in and kick in a little bit of its own money and say, okay, well, we'll pay for the composer and we'll pay Billy D. Williams' salary because he's under contract to us. So there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on. They couldn't take any of my money away because I was already working for Scale.
Right.
So
that first experience must have been incredible. And when it released, did you feel like, okay, things, like you say, your first movie, did you want that to escalate you to the next level of making more movies? Or obviously you did. It's a silly question. But I suppose what I'm trying to say was, did you expect it to do well? Did you have any kind of expectations at all? What
we knew was that when we played it for our preview audiences in Detroit and LA and various Chicago that we went to, it was like going to heaven, going to movie heaven. These people screamed and shouted and laughed like I've never heard before. It was so delightful.
Wow.
The picture always played for the black audiences beautifully, and for some reason it just did not work. White audiences were not interested. I did know that if you got them in the theater and sat them down, they loved the movie. But getting them to go seemed to be a big problem. And in many cases where I had just kind of twisted people's arms to go, they would come back and say, oh, I loved it so much. I didn't want to go when you told me. I didn't want to go, but, just to make you feel better. And you said, well, that's just happened across the world. So now after that movie is out, I'm almost back to square one, only I've made that big step of going from TV movies into features and don't particularly want to go back and don't want to backslide. So I'm really there sort of scratching my head what to do next. And I managed to talk Motown into buying the movie rights to The Wiz.
Oh, wow. Yes. Okay.
And we had, in researching cast for Bingo Long, I had seen The Wiz on Broadway a couple of times, and we used 2 or 3 of the actors who won Tonys for their roles in The Wiz. So Motown again paired up with Universal on that, and we started working on it, and Rob Cohen and I were doing the adaptation of the script. And one day we get a call from Universal saying, we've cast your lead for you. Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. Who is that? It's going to be Diana Ross. I said, you mean the 30-year-old Diana Ross who's going to play the 16-year-old, 15-year-old Judy Garland that was actually playing a 5-year-old Dorothy in the original L. Frank Baum books? That's the Diana Ross we're talking about?
Yeah, that Diana Ross.
Great actress, great singer, great person, but, is she going to make Dorothy look anything other than neurotic? So that followed with basically me wiggling out of doing that, right. And Sidney Lumet coming in and taking it over and being in charge of it, doing the film from there. But I was suddenly a persona non grata in Hollywood. He's just too difficult if he's going to blow up this wonderful musical opportunity.
Big budget as well. Yeah.
And big budget, though interestingly enough, with me, they wanted to do it for like under $10 million. And the final result was over $26 million.
Yeah.
As to what they spent, because they decided to do it in New York City, make New York City look like the Big Apple. At the time, in the middle 70s, New York City didn't look like the Big Apple; it looked like the Big Sewer.
Not a fun place.
Yeah.
and thank God it's improved a lot since then. But that happened to be so trying to fix it up to look really good was an expensive item.
So I suppose you dodged a bullet, but sort of a not. Everyone's heard of The Wiz, but not for the right reasons sometimes. And I suppose around that time you were looking for other projects, and then did Saturday Night Fever come your way? Did you develop it from the projects that it was? Was Robert Stigwood involved from the beginning? Tell us your journey on Saturday Night Fever.
Well, I read the New York Magazine article that it's based on, which was called Tribal Rights of the New Saturday Night. And I read that. It was a very interesting article about what goes on out in Brooklyn and a whole world. And I said to people, to do an adaptation of this for film, you'd have to almost be a novelist. It's not a simple, write scene numbers in the margins kind of thing. It will take a lot of inventing to flesh this out and make it interesting. I didn't hear any more about it because Robert Stigwood bought it and had in mind this young star that he had signed for Grease, John Travolta. And this would be a wonderful thing for John to do before doing Grease, while they're waiting for Olivia Newton-John to become available in her concert schedule that summer. They had a window there. You can have her in the summer of 1978 or whatever it was. And so here we'll have this little movie that we'll do for $1.5 million in locally in Brooklyn, and it'll give John a good warm up and be fun for him to do. And they hired, a guy who had just proven he could do an amazing movie for $1.5 million. Was John Avildsen, and who just had Rocky and had just gotten an Academy Award nomination for Rocky. So he was working on it with his favorite screenwriter, Norman Wexler, who had done Joe and Serpico, wonderful, wonderful screenwriter. And when Norman came in with the draft, John really did not like it, and Robert Stigwood loved it. So there they kind of butted heads back and forth for a while, and even Robert let John go and hire another screenwriter to do a whole new script. It wasn't just a matter of a few changes. It was a whole different look. They just had different ways of looking at the film. And I think what I've learned since then is that John's view was the character was going to be a little more like Rocky, a little bit over the hill, a little bit, out of sorts, and, trying to succeed in spite of himself. And Robert saw it as the way you saw it in the film. So one day, apparently, it came to a head, and suddenly they're only like 2.5, 3 weeks out from production, and they part ways. And guess who gets the call over the weekend? to come to New York and, talk about doing that script. And I had some conversation with Robert before about maybe working on Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Wow. Okay.
And it was just a conversation that didn't go any further, because I was one of the great fans of Sgt. Pepper, but this script didn't work for me. I didn't really understand it.
Fair enough.
But now they're coming, what do you think? And I read Norman Wexler's script, and I absolutely fell in love with it. What do I know about Brooklyn? Nothing. What do I know about disco? Next to nothing. But what do I know about character? A lot. And I loved these characters. I loved the dialogue. I loved the situations. And only later did I realize, oh my God, this is a musical.
You were hoodwinked into a musical. We've all done that. That's all happened to us.
This little line in the script, 1/8 of a page, that says, and they go in the disco and they dance. I go, oh my God, this is 3 minutes of screen time. What are we going to do for 3 minutes for screen time? We're going to dance.
We're just going to dance. That's what we're going to do. And John's going to strut.
And Robert hands me a tape cassette. You guys are probably too young to remember tape cassettes, right?
I think we're older than we look.
Those funny little square things.
Yeah, you need a pencil to rewind it. Yes.
That's right. You have a pencil always with you. So Robert hands me this little tape cassette, and he says, now here's some songs the Bee Gees wrote, and there's 3 number 1 hits on here. And I thought, well, that's pretty arrogant. 3 number 1 hits.
Of course there is.
How in the hell do you know what's a hit and what's not a hit? Nobody knows. And I mean, I was proven right. There were not 3 number 1 hits on there. There were 4.
Yeah.
But you were right. So yes.
Yes.
This was all with about 2 weeks of prep then.
That's right.
Oh my Lord.
Wow. So what did you do in that 2 weeks to get yourself ready to shoot this? How did you get up to speed?
I'm editing the script on the airplane as I'm going, from Los Angeles to New York. Mm-hmm. And we start the first day, looking for locations. Almost every waking hour, I'm going into discos, which is meaning usually at night, because they're only open. And most of them don't get good till 1 or 2 in the morning.
I remember.
If they open up at 9 o'clock, it's pretty boring until about that 1 or 2. So I'm going around to discos trying to figure out, what's the right kind of disco. Plus, we're seeing actors. We're finding other locations. I'm working with the production designer and the costume designer on how it's going to look. And we decided that everything in the costume department had to come off the rack. We were not going to be making any costumes. It needed to look so contemporary and so much a film of the moment that was very important. All of our locations were to be practical. We were not building one single set. All we did in the disco was the one we settled on, which was the one that was in the New York Magazine article. It had this horrible old beat up wooden floor, and we found this disco floor that you could put in. You could order it, say, I need it 30 by 40 feet. And they'd say, great, what colors do you want? Well, I'd like red, green, and blue. Okay, great. Wouldn't you like some amber? Oh, okay, if you want. Good. But we were such a cheap production that in the background of the disco on the walls, my production designer, Charles Bailey, brings in rolls of aluminum foil and starts hanging them like wallpaper all across.
Cool.
And hanging little kind of white Christmas tree lights on front of them. And so everything is sparkling in the background. And if you look closely at the film in the disco scenes, you can see that it's aluminum foil back there.
I think it's some on the roof as well, I think.
Probably so, yes. But we said, you know what? You can see all the lights. You can see, I told the DP, Ralph Boda, I said, I want to see all of your lights in here. They're all part of the scene. It's okay to see them. So we were just working like the wind, which was another virtue of my having done a lot of television, that I was used to going
turnarounds,
going quickly and moving fast. And we had a few scenes to do before we moved into the disco. About 6 weeks into shooting, we had done a lot of work outside, and then come in and spent the last of our shooting time inside the disco. And again, it was, you remember my 38-day, 52-day story on Bingo? Same deal here. 38 days you're going to shoot this in, and it becomes 52 days.
Wow.
Because we all knew about shooting dialogue, but shooting dance, it takes a while. And
it's like an action scene. Yeah, it's got to be done right.
I mean, if Travolta's doing this amazing 4-minute dance that's so completely physical, you're out of business for a good half an hour, 45 minutes, while he A, recovers, B, changes his drenched white suit into another drenched white suit.
It was hanging up in the back. It was still not dry properly. Yeah.
Still not dry because somebody was trying to dry it with a hairdryer. I mean, by the end of the day, these suits were so funky. You just put a piece of paper with the address of the dry cleaner in the pocket, and they'd walk down to the dry cleaner by themselves.
But there's an amazing kind of blend of realism. We talked about Sidney Lumet earlier, and it's got that kind of Sidney Lumet realism with his working life, and then combined with the wonderful escapism of the dance scenes, and it's a really amazing combination, which you managed to achieve with that film, I think.
Well, I think I definitely owe a lot to Scorsese for Mean Streets, and owe a lot to Rocky. Because the gritty quality. I mean, I saw the film as something along those lines. And even though my knowledge of Brooklyn was Zippo, I said, well, let's pretend that I'm a British documentarian, and I'm coming here. And what do? I shoot what I see.
Yep, absolutely. And that's usually more interesting. I always find if I look at LA and go, oh my God, I could shoot this. I could look. And other people who live there just go, oh God, it's horrible. And they think the same about the UK. They go, oh my God, look how, exotic it is. And we all sort of go, well, it's not. We've been here. But you can put your own voice on that and your own take on what you think looks good. And I think you did that brilliant with Saturday Night Fever. Really well done. Did you expect the success to be like it was? And did you think that was going to happen? Even though you knew it was something good, and you knew John was potentially this big star. Did you think it would break out as much as it did?
No.
And still be talked about today?
I never ever thought that. I thought it was good. I thought it was wonderful. It played nicely. The preview audiences were okay. They were not great. I mean, the preview audiences for Bingo Long were much better. And I remember playing it in Atlanta, and it was just kind of so-so. And Robert Stigwood was the one who was the great believer in it, and who was saying, no, it's going to be terrific. And he got the Paramount marketing people all excited about it. But the main Paramount executives were, I don't know, they kept begging me to take more profanity out of the script. To bland it down a little bit. So when it opened, it was suddenly an instant smash. I mean, it was a huge first weekend in Los Angeles in Westwood. It was in the National Theater, which is right in Westwood, and their flagship theater. And I went by there at 10 o'clock on the Friday night it opened. And the line was literally around the block.
Wow.
For the midnight show.
Oh.
Because the 10 o'clock show was already sold out, as had been the 8 o'clock, the 6 o'clock, and the 4 in the afternoon show.
Incredible.
It was such a surprise that when they told the head of Paramount, who was Barry Diller at the time, how much it had made over the weekend, he accused them of being wrong and having put too many zeros in those figures.
That must have felt great for you, though, right? To just go, well, I'm making this little movie, and look how well it's done. That must have felt great, right? You're in the top of the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I loved it that, people enjoyed it. And, it's always a thrill when you have ideas and you can see them being responded to by the audience. That joke worked, or that particular moment worked.
Was there anything you did camera-wise, or anything you did directing-wise at that point now, where you were learning some of the stuff that's in your book, some of the stuff over the time that you thought, okay, because you've now done a load of TV movies, you've now done a feature film with some big stars, and now you've just done this big movie, Saturday Night Fever. By this point, have you learned how actors are? Had you learned camera, techniques, anything like that by this point? Were you already sort of going, I think I know how this works?
Thank goodness you're always learning something. I mean, with actors, it never stops. Till the day you retire or they nail you in the box, there's always new challenges with acting, because the performers are always different. That's one of the things that keeps it exciting. Every day is a brand new day. It's not like you're standing on an assembly line with your actors, putting wheels on Chevrolets. You're dealing with individual problems. So that's always exciting. And camera, we were just getting used to using Steadicam at that point.
All right.
And discovering, what it could do and what kind of range of motion we had. So always looking for new ways to tell stories is something that I continue to this day. I'm one of the big advocates of the digital revolution, and spend a lot of time trying to talk networks into shooting movies of the week digitally instead of film, because you could see it's coming and you can't resist it. Let's try it. Let's see what it's like. Maybe it'll be exciting. And, there's so much always to learn. Now we see what's happening with programs like The Mandalorian, where the technology has gone up, a whole other level from a director who's an actor. Really, John Favreau is a wonderful actor, and you might not necessarily think of somebody who started as an actor being a great technician also, but to invent the way that he did The Jungle Book, and now The Mandalorian, has taken us in a whole new direction. All of that's very exciting stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it must be for you. It's like you say, coming from film literally now to digital must be fascinating. But I wanted to talk about Dracular as well a little bit, because after Saturday Night Fever, you must be now hot. You're a hot director. You've got a hit movie out. Were you in a position where you could go, okay, I can pick and choose a little more, or was things throwing at you, or were you still developing and finding your own journey? What happened next?
I did start looking at a lot of things, and something that appealed to me. Universal came to me and asked me to look at the Dracula. So I went to New York and saw Frank Langella on stage there, which was quite an exciting performance, but something that was designed specifically for stage. But definitely we have one of the most romantic leading men that we've had in decades, Frank Langella. We can make something that is very romantic and quite lush, and go back to the original Bram Stoker novel of Dracula, not just adapt the Dracula play, which we had seen as the Dracula movie with Bela Lugosi. So we said, let's go back to the book. Let's tell something that the way the book was originally, and work from that. We set that up, and we're fortunate to get Laurence Olivier to agree to be in it, and he had been very sick and had recovered from a really nasty cancer, and was feeling up to working, and he wanted to work. He wanted to stay busy, and we said, "This is great. How can we turn down Laurence Olivier?" And he brought all of his professionalism and and talent to it, and the respect of the other actors was amazing. You know, the greatest actor of the 20th century, British actor, certainly, if not the greatest, is certainly in the top 5.
Well, and Frank Langella as well. I thought he was just fantastic. It was like so watchable. It was just extraordinary. I mean, to be fair, I've watched a lot of it. I hadn't watched that until recently. I was just sort of blown away by his performance track. It was so beautiful, sort of layered and vivid and just real. It's like the first time I think I've seen him as a real person as well as a vampire. But it's just fantastic to watch.
It's a very different kind of Dracula. It's like much more seductive than the Bela Lugosi films. So it was definitely a unique spin.
The principle of it was quite simply, evil can be very attractive. And when we start thinking about many of the evil things in our lives, say drugs, alcohol, gambling, things like that, those are kind of maybe petty addictions, but they're very attractive to people. And if somebody comes in looking like Bela Lugosi, lots of luck on getting close to him. But somebody comes in looking like Frank Langella, boy, he's got everybody snookered. And they're all coming after him like crazy, and he's got them. So evil can take many faces.
You did a great job, and you have for so many of your movies. I listed, 6 or 7 there that are all just fantastic and we've all heard of and just wonderful. What did you prefer, and what are techniques you could take from, say, an action film that you couldn't from a drama as a director? Tips for our listeners out there between the two?
One thing we know about action scenes is that they have very clear goals in them that the characters in the scene are after, and you have to outline those goals. They have strong beginnings, strong middles, and strong ends. They have to have their own little arc and their own little path. So when you start talking about action scenes, you have to go in and define, what's the goal of it? What are the different ways that they try to get to this goal? If we're talking about, say, Blue Thunder with helicopters chasing one another, we have to realize, it's not just one helicopter comes by and the next helicopter comes by, then the next, then one and the next, because that's all going to be very boring. You have to figure out incidents, just like in any kind of dramatic scene, where you need to have actors changing the way they go after their goals. And is saying, well, I tried this, now let me try this instead. Oh, okay, that didn't work. Now let me try this. That's something that is going to happen in any decent dramatic scene. And you can't just have the cowboys chasing the Indians, chasing the cowboys, chasing the Indians. There's things have to happen in the big stagecoach, in the movie Stagecoach. You watch the stagecoach desperately trying to get away from the Indians chasing them, and the Indians get closer and closer. Then one of them jumps off their horse onto the stagecoach's horses and tries to stop it. Now the stagecoach guys have to try to get rid of that guy, get rid of that Indian who's on the front. It's action reaction. You do the same in dramatic scenes. If you don't have that, you're going to have I don't care how exciting it is, it's going to be deadly, because you're not invested in, how this is growing and building and getting you more involved as you worry about the jeopardy of the characters in the scene. Oh my God, this guy's really going to get killed. Oh my God, this is really dangerous. That's one of the big things that you better be promoting as you're making the action happen.
Oh no! The scene with the in Blue Thunder with the helicopter sort of chase with Malcolm McDowell as well. I mean, obviously we know the goodies tend to win, but genuinely you sort of go, oh, this could actually go genuinely really wrong. It's just so beautifully sort of paced, and I'm not a huge sort of actiony sort of person, but you sort of watch those, that scene, and you're absolutely in the helicopter sort of with them as well. It makes a huge difference. Where I feel like a lot of modern stuff occasionally, especially with the CG stuff, I find it really hard to sort of get on board with it, as in from an emotional sort of point of view. But a scene like that in Blue Thunder, you're just absolutely there with them.
Absolutely. And you mentioned in your book about that, how you had to trim that scene down, and how you at first were like, well, what's wrong with it? It's a great, 4-minute action scene or whatever. And then you realized there was no purpose. And then when you put that in within the edit by trimming down to what's important and what's happening, then the scene worked for you, which I think is really interesting. How do you find the editing side now? Has things changed in terms of from when you first started to now as a director, bringing your voice into that?
Well, the technique has just shifted so radically that now, almost anybody can learn the mechanics of editing, in a very short amount of time. All of my students, they take avid boot classes and learn the rough basics of how to do it, whereas doing it on film is much more difficult and time consuming. Suddenly, you're able to do some editing really, really, really quickly. And it's not taking nearly as much time. That means that when I go into the cutting room with the editor, we can try so many more ideas and versions of things because it's not such a big chore to make a change. Before you'd say, oh, I remember there was a good take. Didn't we have take 3? And was that pretty good? Oh, yeah, we did. Well, let's see that. Now, some assistant has to get on a ladder, climb up, find take 3 in a box, bring it down. We thread it through the moviola. We go, oh, no, that's not as good as I thought. Oh, shit, okay. So now, we're suddenly, in the old days, we're thinking, I think take 3 was better, but we don't have time to go up and climb up that ladder and do all that stuff and get that film and find out that it's not really good. So you blow it off. Nowadays, if I say, let's look at take 3, boom, it's up. We check it. We try ideas. We don't like it. We just reset it to where it was. And this just helps the creativity of things so much more. Some people complain that it's too fast, that you really need time to think about stuff, and you need time to walk away and come back and be fresh and not try to lock everything down so quickly. And I suppose there is some benefit to that. So it's always nice when you've got a cut of something to be able to walk away from it for 2 or 3 days and come back and get a fresh look at it. Nowadays, even I will actually attempt to go in and do some simple editing, which I never would before, because I would just wind up with sticky pieces of tape all over my hands and have gummed up the entire film and ruined everything. But now I can go in and gum it up without doing that, and they can retrieve it and put it back the way it should have been before I got my hands on it.
Do you think you getting more involved in the editing has helped you as a director? I know you're not getting your hands dirty as such anymore, but to sort of be more part of the visceral sort of putting it together, do you then take that onto set?
Oh, of course you do, because you have a much better idea of what you really need. If you're just out there kind of shooting newsreel, shooting everything, coverage of everybody. And, after a while in the editing room, you're saying, I don't need that. Or I just need a quick look from this person. Don't spend any time on this. They're terrible. It doesn't matter. I just want, a look there because I know what I'm going to use. I know that not to pay too much attention because this scene is really from this character's point of view. And so the fact that this character is weak doesn't matter to me.
That's an interesting point there you say about what point of view is the scene from. And I think, we touched on it a bit before, but I think that's really important, isn't it? Whose scene is it? How do you work that out when you look at the script? Because sometimes it does change. You can have two points of view. You discuss that as well. But how do you know when's the point that you choose as a director to go, okay, it's this person's point of view?
Well, in analyzing the script, some stories follow one character a lot, so that in Saturday Night Fever, we have pretty much one character's point of view. John Travolta is in virtually every scene in the movie. I think there's like one scene in the movie where he may not be, but it's totally from his point of view. It's all about how he sees the world and how he reacts to the world. In my little film with Johnny Depp called Nick of Time, it's about how Johnny Depp's character sees the world and is terrified for his daughter, who's been kidnapped for him, and how in the hell is this poor CPA gonna assassinate the governor of California, which is such a ridiculous idea, but he's stuck with having to do it. So the story is going to tell you. If you just look at it and you say, who's got the most to lose here? That's a good question to ask. Who are we seeing the movie? How are we seeing it? And so how can we tell the movie? How can we tell the story in the best way? Now, I've been looking recently at this wonderful film with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, Marriage Story. And there's some fabulous, fabulous scenes in there that are just, point of view. They're so strongly point of view that it's you could tell the director really knew what he was doing. There's a scene early on where Adam Driver is trying to direct his Broadway cast in a play he's rehearsing, and he gets a call from his wife's lawyer. He goes out into the stairwell to talk to her, and while he's talking to her, people keep interrupting him from the play. Costume designer comes out with clothes to be picked. An actor comes and wants to change a line of dialogue. Stage manager comes and says the break is over and we've got to go back. And meanwhile, he's having to talk to this lawyer who's bullying him into agreeing to something he doesn't want to agree to. What's wonderful about it is you never see the lawyer. We're only seeing Adam Driver. And it's so totally his point of view of a guy being assaulted from all sides, not just a divorce attorney, but the whole play, his whole life. I mean, his whole life is coming in and beating up on him, and we don't see virtually anybody else. Or if we see the people from the play, it's only in long shot. I mean, it's such a strong point of view that. It's very, very great example of that phenomenon and how powerful a storytelling tool it is. And if we went back and recut it, assuming that he would have shot footage of Laura Dern as the lawyer on the other side, I bet you it would weaken that scene so much by having that. It start to become more about her than about him. Very bold choice.
If you could, would you prefer film or TV now? I know you're doing a lot of TV at the moment, but in your heyday, you were, smashing feature films out. Short Circuit is one of my favourites of all time. Growing up as a kid, just a brilliant film. But War Games again, Matthew Broderick. Looking back now, if you could do both, if you could still be making films like War Games and Short Circuit and Saturday Night Fever now, as opposed to making TV, what would you like to do? What did you prefer, and what tips could you give to filmmakers who aren't sure or don't know which direction to go in?
Well, there's no question that it's much more fun to be involved in a film where you have very strong control and you're not so much of a gun for hire. I stay with the television, as my friend John Frankenheimer once observed to me. He said, "I never thought you could learn anything about directing by not directing." That's what he said. And I think, I love being able to be on the floor and work with actors and try to tell the story. I would much rather be in something where I didn't have to, pay so much attention to what the producers need and what the brand is. But, I'm game. I say, no, I'm here. I love doing it. I'd rather be doing it than not doing it.
That says it all, doesn't it? Absolutely amazing. John, this has been unbelievable. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it massively.
I just want to say thank you for the book as well. I think it's going to help sort of so many directors. I think also actors should read this book as well. I think I think it'll be so helpful from a screen acting point of view. So I just want to thank. I teach screen actors, so I'm definitely going to be recommending this to a lot of people because it's so nice that it's not sort of a how-to book. It you ask questions, and you remind us as directors to ask questions on set rather than saying you should be doing this, should be doing this. And I definitely forget as well, with all hundreds of things going on, 50 people asking you questions, and then but you asking yourself some of those lovely simple questions in your checklist. I just think it's such an amazing tool for directors, either new or established. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh,
Fantastic.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad it's helpful.
Yeah, it really is. On Directing is pretty much available now. We'll be putting links to that in the show notes. So yeah, how exciting. It's wonderful. John, do you have a social media presence? Can people find you online at all?
We're doing little videos here in my office, based on lessons about how to avoid getting into fights with your actors. What's the advantage of coming to the set early? What can you achieve by getting there half an hour before a call? Things like that. And so we're going to be, putting a lot of these out on social media.
Well, look out for that.
Hopefully by the time this goes out, that will be ready for you all, and I'll give the link to that as well. If not, it'll be on our Twitter, which is @filmmakerspod. You can follow me @Giles Alderson. Matt, where can people follow you?
You can either follow our company, Fizz and Ginger, or me, M. Butler-Hart, on Twitter.
Okay.
There you go, and your new film,
Infinitum. But I thanks for the shout outs, previously. It's as in ad infinitum, but it's just Infinitum.
Exciting.
Yeah, and Robbie?
And I'm Robbie McCain on Twitter.
There you go. This has been amazing. John has been a fantastic guest for you all to listen to. I hope you've learned something, but you will learn more from his amazing book On Directing by John Badham. Remember, you can go make your indie film. You can go do it. Remember who your audience is and get out there and get on it. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, as John has done, it is your duty to send the elevator back down. Until next Tuesday, we will see you all then. Thank you all so much for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.